G'day YouTube, warbles on a lot here. With an update on modifications to the yurt. Yesterday's Warble Daddy work project was to add a second 100 litre storage container, ventilated suitably, for the containment of a pair of Century C105 225 amp hour 6 volt batteries, with space for another two in the fullness of the time when the system is to be upgraded and expanded, featuring a properly armoured link cable across to box number 1, featuring the solar charge controller and the backup petrol charge controller. Look how neat the wiring is in this hazy, cloudy sky. The 70 watt panel off the RAV4 plus the two little 10 watt panels producing 5.6 amps at 13.37 volts with 1.5 amps coming out of the system, and that 1.5 amps is feeding the pussycat heater. See there? Set on low. Switch that off. Switch that off because it's currently eyeballs on that. There we go. 17 degrees outside, 22 degrees inside, and therefore the pussiest of the catus does not require a heater. Do we, Skitty, eh? But at 6 o'clock this morning when your mum left the yurt, you did require a heater. So now the 5.5 amps yields 13.45 volts, of which only 1.22 amps is coming into the second lot of batteries which were set up here yesterday. I suppose only to be expected, because these ones have been in service. They've got more active plate area. But anyway, that's the electrical system at the moment. When we get to 13.5 volts, then that little light will start to blink. As far as I'm aware, 13.41 over here versus 13.47 in that box. So yeah, you've only got 0.05 of a volt difference. No wonder there's not so much current coming over here. I wonder how long it'll take for the two 12 volt banks to equalise across their link cable. The fact that you have to take the chimney spring flying wires off the number 1 box in order to have a look at the batteries down in there, unless you want to check their voltage at the other end of the lead going into the inverter, means, yeah, I'm not entirely certain how long or how closely that phenomenon will be monitored as it progresses. And you'd have to be blind to have missed the fact that the chimney, or the flue, has now gained a shroud to insulate it, because what was going on was a 60mm thin wall stainless steel flue in air temperatures going down to -2.5 with sleety drizzle. the flue gases were being chilled, cooled down excessively by going through 2 metres of 60mm stainless steel pipe at -2 degrees. So we've had a lot of rain, so the firewood isn't actually dry. The firewood's got a fairly high moisture content. So between the moisture coming out of the wood and the volatiles that were being vaporised in the fire and then chilled on the way through the flue, the creosote was sticking to the inside of the walls, and it was literally building up feathery little fingers radially growing in towards the centre of the core where the hottest smoke was going, with these fingers of coldness coming in from the outside. And after the fire had been in situ for, I don't know, a week, there wasn't enough draft on the flue to actually suck the smoke out of the yurt. And I come out here and investigated, pulled one of the segments off and was horrified, and spent 15 minutes, half an hour cleaning the creosote out of all the rest of them. And I figured it out that the only way to stop that problem is to shield the stainless steel flue from the cold air. And I thought I'd go and get some 4-inch steel drain pipe. They don't make it anymore. It's all PVC. Can't even get square sections drain pipe anymore. It's all PVC. And somebody said air conditioning ducting or heating ducting. So that's 2 segments. It comes in maybe half that length, and you pull it lengthwise and it expands. And it seems to be working. It was really fascinating the first time I lit it. It took 10-15 minutes for the flue to start to burn with a clean pipe, as you say, when you can't see any visible smoke coming out. And about a minute after that, it commenced to shower creosote fragments, tiny little segments that had presumably broken off the inside of the stainless steel pipe as the pipe got hot enough to expand. And since then, yeah, it does clearly spit a few little tiny bits. So far, there has only been one bit that has landed on the tent in a condition hot enough to burn a hole in the tent, and I think that was probably on the first night, the night of the creosote cascade, and it's been fixed with a little bit of silicone rubbed onto the canvas. But yeah, all of these flecks of creosote are merely cosmetic hazards. You know, like if you flick the canvas, the creosote chip falls off. If you try and rub it or brush it, you can successfully rub it into the canvas, so we won't do that. And then it occurred to me that this is a good external cure, but if the wind really got serious, it could still pull the roof of the tent, extend those springs, dump the batteries, and then you could still be faced with a disconnected flue inside the hut. So I decided to go all minimalist aeroplane designer-ish about it. Feast your eyes on that. Is it going to show it? Probably not. Anyway, these 2 pieces of galvanised steel are bolted to the stainless steel. We have 2 flying wires coming down either side to a shaped galvanised steel lifting strop, and there is now literally no way that the tent roof can pull the flue 50mm apart, because there's a joint there, there's a joint there, there's a joint down there. And on the night of the 80km/h gust, that is kind of what happened. The tent roof went up, it pulled the stove vertically off the ground, and then the stove fell off the bottom joint, which was a highly unsafe situation. And here's something to be aware of. These things really do not tolerate being sat down on the ground beside the stove, because the radiant heat from the side of the stove pre-warmed the cooled sink, and yeah, this kind of like died. The other problem is, if you can see all the ashes on the center of the base plate, those ashes came up out of that hole, a hole which the manufacturer puts there so that you can lift that up and cook directly off the flames if you really want to risk filling the tent with flames when you lift that off. So when the old fan was sitting on top of the hole, it was blasting hot air directly onto that bimetal safety strip, which, when the whole thing gets too hot, that strip deforms, and it's supposed to lift the front edge up like that to cool the unit down. And when the base covers the hole, what that does is it allows even hotter air to come roaring up underneath it, and then the hot air rises up the front and cooks the wires and cooks the Peltier unit between the heat sink and the cold sink. So yeah, lesson learned: to keep those wires white and pristine and clean, thou shalt not cover up the hole in the stove with the bimetal safety strip. Hence the placement anywhere along there is safe and effective. And this unit is now scrap metal. Isn't it good that I had a spare motor unit to drive the homemade propeller? Okay, Skitty, I will leave you in possession of the yurt. Happy pussycat? Of course it's a happy pussycat. Living in the lap of luxury, glamping in style. Turns out there's quite a lot involved when one's offspring announces a plan to come home and live in a yurt in the backyard. So it turns out. And just for the fun of it, look at that. The Pyramid has now got 6 225 amp hour 6 volt batteries. So I've now got 665 amp hours worth of 12 volt storage. So this thing can now go 2 full complete rainy days following a blue sky day before actually needing to start the generator, because it only uses 30 or 35 amp hours to run my hut on a rainy day when I'm sitting inside doing nothing. So yes, all systems are being upgraded. Bulky charging. We've got 1 amp coming out for the phone and the vaporizer's battery charger. 8.3 amps going in, although it says 9 over there. Funny thing about this machine, it always reads 0.19 below what it actually is in terms of amps. So indicated times 1.19 equals actual for amps or amp hours. And because there's all kinds of other things happening with this evil twin trying to come out the side of my neck. There you are, have a look at that. Isn't it fucking horrifying? What means is that I'm probably going to have all my teeth taken out this week, because they're otherwise going to fall out under the radiation therapy. So therefore I'm highly unlikely to ever get this in any near short-term future sense fitted up with this steel tubing and some pop rivets. And if you imagine cutting that off and throwing away the pedals and doing the same on that one, and then using the back forks as a heavy-duty suspended trailer. Bugger me, look what I just found. Some ancient museum grade galvanised water pipe with some bends on it. If I'd known about that, I probably would not have gone and bought that, because it's just about enough of it too. What was I saying? Yeah, in the near term future, if I'm going to get all my teeth taken out this week and then go away and have my head cooked, I'm not going to turn those 2 push bikes in any reasonable time frame into a steel tube framed trailer to carry a couple of deep cycle batteries and a charge controller and an inverter with a 170 watt panel on the roof. And at the moment that whole system is quite neatly running my 12 volt fridge. So hopefully, before the dentist renders me unable to do much, I will get to put that solar panel up there. And these batteries and the controller and various boxes of stuff could all go in yet another 100 litre container, which will probably live where that mess has been residing for decades, on the veranda. So anyway, that's where things stand on the endangered species sanctuary at this point in time. And the next thing to do is going to be to cut that standing trunk down and turn it into firewood in length short enough that they can be split by the daughter living in the yurt while I'm not here, because such is life. Oh yeah, today is my son's 33rd birthday. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Happy birthday, Matatakis. Group officer in the RFS. What's he doing for his birthday? He's got 2 annual general meetings to attend. That's what happens when you grow up on an endangered species sanctuary. You become a responsible citizen and take on all sorts of serious important roles within the community. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.